This is HeKnowsFitness Sport, bringing you that heat and that fire. I got a lot to say today, man. We getting it in today, boy. We getting it in. We dropping 4 of them damn things. But before we get on to the video, make sure y'all hit the link in the description. The other channel, HeKnowsFitness. You guys are going to see quick, fast, and effective workouts that's going to yield lasting results. Make sure y'all subscribe to that channel. Comment, like, and share. Again, workouts that are being done at the most basic and fundamental level that's going to teach you how to move your body, keep your immune systems high, work your heart rate up during a time of social distancing, i.e. global distancing. Now let's get on to the video. Bill Laimbeer, I'm going to get on his ass. See, this is the stuff that people need to understand. And the prediction king strikes again. And the prediction king strikes again. I told you guys, man. There's a agenda, man, to try to make LeBron James be prevalent. HeKnowsFitness Sport delivered this stuff in basketball profit and in basketball visionary form. You guys have to start putting respect on HeKnowsFitness Sport's name, because I'm bringing you that what? That heat and that fire. And I'm keeping the foot on the what? On the next. I'm keeping the foot on the what? On the next. Now let's get on to the video, man. Bill Laimbeer is just talking too sideways out of his ass. Remember, the Detroit Pistons created the Jordan rules. You know what that rule was all about? Let me explain that to you guys. See, I told you guys, HeKnowsFitness Sport can operate in any form that he wants to operate. And if he operates in that form, he will be the best. But I choose to not operate in certain forms because I like to operate in what we call multifaceted forms. Let me say it again. I don't just want to operate in one form because that puts you in a box. I like to operate in multifaceted forms. But let me just operate in this form, in NBA encyclopedia form. Let's go back and let's jog you guys' memory. When we look at the aspect of what the Jordan rules was all about, it was a rule that was set up to basically not allow Michael Jordan to drive to the basket. I'm giving you guys this at its lamest terms. MJ going to the basket was undeniable, unstoppable. He was just unrealistic. He was in the air, dog. He was his airness. Bill Laimbeer was feeling some type of way about that. So the Jordan rules was installed. The author of the Jordan rules, you would think it would be Rick Mahorn and Bill Laimbeer. Wasn't even them. So let me educate you guys. It was actually an idea that was manufactured by Isaiah Thomas. See, a lot of people don't know this. May not be old enough to know this, but I'm going to break it down. Isaiah Thomas met up with Joe Dumars, Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, and the crew, and said, every time Jordan goes to the basket, we're going to foul the shit out of him. We're going to hack him. We're going to elbow him. We're going to knee him. We're going to punch him. We're going to grab him. We're going to grapple him. We're going to slam him. We're going to drop him to the floor. That's what the Jordan rules is all about. It's not even basketball. It's just basically WWE wrestling. Let me say it again. The Jordan rules wasn't even basketball, y'all. It was WWE wrestling. Bill Laimbeer was already a dirty player. Isaiah Thomas knew this. So Bill Laimbeer just needed a slither of something to justify his dirtiness, along with Rick Mahorn. Dennis Rodman was already, mentally disturbed. So because of that, they knew bringing this into the equation was just going to basically put it out there, explode it, so to speak, right? And Joe Dumars was a trip artist like nobody's business. Y'all need to be watching these Pistons games. Y'all see what I'm talking about. Him and Isaiah Thomas, when somebody will blow by them, they will put their feet out to trip them. And people would think they're playing defense. They're not playing defense, y'all. Y'all need to go back and watch these games. Isaiah Thomas was actually the mastermind and the most dirtiest player. He just didn't look like it on the team because he did it with a fucking smile. But he was the author. He was the orchestrator of this whole Jordan rules. That's why when they asked him, he sat there and smiled it. Don't take my words for it. Go look at the documentary on ESPN, Bad Boy Pistons. They all alluded to the fact that Isaiah Thomas was the orchestrator of this stuff. Isaiah Thomas hated Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan basically made him non-existent, especially as it pertains to the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference was supposed to be dominated by the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons had success against the Chicago Bulls because of the Jordan rules. Pippen didn't come of age. Pippen was still young. Remember, he came in at 84. So by the time they started ruffling with the Pistons, 87, Pippen was 3 years in, man. He still was wet behind the damn ears. MJ, on the other hand, was already You know what I'm saying? Well, Pippen came in 87. So by the time Pippen came in, let me rewind that back. Pippen came in 87. By the time they started rustling with the damn Pistons in 88, Pippen was in his first fucking year. Jordan was already 4 years in, going into 5, because Jordan was the one that came in 84. So I corrected that. Now, here's the thing. You're dealing with guys that already been veterans. They already been playing these types of rough, rugged wars with the Boston Celtics. This is how they play basketball. This basketball was a really WWE style of the way that it was played. It was played in such a very physical way, you wouldn't even think you was playing basketball. This is how they played against the Lakers. Don't think the Lakers showtime was all clean. No, they were playing dirty ass too. They were tripping people, punching people, dropping people. They were doing all kinds of cockamamie stuff, man. This is how basketball was played at its truest and its most prosperous level. Jordan then turns around and says, you know what? After getting beat up by the Pistons a few times, let me go beef up in the fucking gym. Him and Scottie Pippen went and beefed up, and they both gained 20 plus pounds of pure muscle. So not only did it add to their explosion, not only it added to their athleticism, not only it added to their ability to dominate, but they just became different overnight. Because people forget, they always think it's just Michael Jordan. Scottie Pippen was right there training with Michael Jordan and Tim Grover. That's an unwritten rule. If you do your research, that's why I said I'm peeling the layers of the onion of the encyclopedia book, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Pippen was right there. Just Pippen didn't get the credit because he was doing the underrated work. Obviously, Tim Grover was Michael Jordan's trainer, and we're talking about MJ here. So that's going to get shedded on the light. Hopefully they show that in the April 19 and the April 26 documentaries with the Chicago Bulls. But I'm giving you guys the caveat here. Scottie Pippen was being trained under Tim Grover too. They both came in 20 pounds heavier, more muscle mass. So now, no matter if the Jordan rules applied or not, we're talking about guys that have more girth, more mass, more athleticism. Now, they're not going to sit there and just take a beating. They're actually going to give a beating too, because they have more muscular structure to dish it back out. That's what happened with the Chicago Bulls. They swept the Detroit Pistons. And ever since that swept, with Isaiah Thomas not being selected to the Dream Team, Bill Laimbeer feeling some type of way, the way that he felt about being swept, the Detroit Pistons have not rehabbed off of that sweeping, man. Because you guys have to understand, that sweeping was so embarrassing. The Bulls were blowing out the Detroit Pistons game after game after game. MJ basically made Isaiah Thomas look like a redheaded stepchild out there. They were sitting there and making Bill Laimbeer look old and freaking slow. At that point, it was evident that the bad boy Pistons were done. And the Chicago Bulls' dominance, their dynasty, was coming of age. The Boston Celtics were done. The Chicago Bulls dynasty was coming of age. And finally, the Lakers dynasty was done. We know what happened when Jordan did the to Magic Johnson, and the Bulls dynasty was coming of age. Isaiah Thomas didn't want to come to that conclusion. Bill Laimbeer didn't want to come to that conclusion. So when you see Bill Laimbeer running his mouth about LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan, he doesn't even believe that shit. He's just saying that because it's still bad taste in his mouth of the fact that MJ swept his ass. That's the cold-hearted, unadulterated, cutthroat, truth-telling fashion. So you guys have to do the links here. Always link. Why does a person have a beef with Michael Jordan? I have to break this down so you guys understand this. Shannon Sharpe's beef with Michael Jordan was because Jordan never let his ass in parties. Jordan didn't know who he was, didn't care about him. So Shannon Sharpe held that beef with Michael Jordan because of that. And now he basically became a LeBron tard. Same thing with Bill Laimbeer. He still has not gotten over the fact that Isaiah Thomas didn't make the Dream Team. And he still didn't get over the fact that his ass got swept. That's why he's running to LeBron James. If you go and look at what Bill Laimbeer previously said about Michael Jordan, you will see his hypocrisy. He called MJ the greatest player of all time. How can you call a player the greatest of all time on one end and then turn around and say LeBron's better than him? Come on, folks. Stop being dodo heads. Stop being brain full of mush and brainwashed followers. Because that's what's happening at its truest and its most prosperous levels. So when you see LeBron tards quote Bill Laimbeer, that is the most desperate attempt of what I was talking about when I mentioned that yesterday. Cult-like following at its truest and its most prosperous levels. These guys are so much a brain full of mush and brainwashed dodo heads, they can't even tell basically their ass from their ass cheek. It's really that simple. This is how LeBron has bamboozled these folks, beguiled these folks, and betwixt these folks. How the heck can Isaiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer tell you that Michael Jordan was the greatest player of all time, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, now say that LeBron James is? Even Isaiah Thomas had to hold that back because he couldn't even believe when LeBron said, I was the GOAT when I beat the 73 and 9. Golden State Warriors, come on, folks. Open the eyes and see this stuff for what it is, man. Wake up and smell the damn coffee. Bill Laimbeer don't even believe in his own shit. He's just stirring stuff up like the bad boy Pistons did in those days. Stirring up the pot. And a lot of times when people stir up the pot, they don't need to have truth behind them stirring up the pot. What I said was so deep and profound. Let me rewind that because that needs to marinate in the corpus callosum and in the cerebellum. Hear me? And hear me? Well, a lot of times when people are stirring up the pot, they don't even need to have truths behind them stirring up the pot. A lot of times stirring up the pot comes from a place of insecurity. And that's where Bill Laimbeer is at. He's insecure in the fact that the Bulls swept his ass. He still have not left that bad taste out of his mouth. And he knows that sweeping was basically the end of the bad boy Pistons era. That's the truth of the fact of the matter. I keeps the foot on the what? On the next. I keeps the foot on the what? On the next. This is HeKnowsFitness. Checking out.